Welcome to Talking Trade. I'm Ian Coxhead at the University of Wisconsin-Madison.
And I'm Sandy Siegel, president of ME Day. And it's my pleasure today to invite friend and colleague Ken Wasylik. Ken is the founder and owner of EM Wasylik Associates, a 22-year-old international development company who serves small to medium-sized organizations who are looking to expand their export markets. You've got a background in accounting and finance, as well as a CPA, chartered global management accountant, and an investment advisor. So I know I turn to you, Ken, with all things international finance related and accounting related, and you've been a great resource for us and our customers, as well as very active in Wisconsin's trade community as a speaker and sitting on the Export Council and so forth. So a lot of experience in international trade. So great to catch up with you again. Welcome on Talking Trade. You've worked with companies, both existing importers, exporters, and those looking to build or expand their markets or understand market potential. I know a lot of your work is often on the ground, going overseas and going to trade shows, snooping on competitors and so forth. So tell me, I have to imagine that's changed dramatically. Tell me, what your initial steps are in entering a foreign market, and indeed, how has it changed during the pandemic?
Yeah, sure. Well, Sandy and Ian, it's great to be here. Thank you for asking me to be on your program. I think about the first step always is market research. You have to know the market that you're going into. And so in pre-pandemic and continuing, usually that first step is some type of desktop research. So looking at the web, seeing what the competitors are doing, seeing what the market, is there any market reports, but that's always augmented by using some government resources, right? The U.S. Commercial Service has a wonderful programs for U.S. exporters, working with the state WEDC and some of these other state organizations. And then that next step was always taking some in-person, in-country look, whether it's a trade mission, trade venture, or basically sending some sales person to that particular market. And that's how you built it pre-pandemic. One thing during the pandemic, that whole travel, that section just stopped, right? You just couldn't do it. And it really worked into what is an alternative to face-to-face. And the natural adoption was a video telecom, just like we're doing right now. And so during the pandemic, that acceptance by our clients' customers in those foreign markets that you can actually start a conversation and a business transaction or a business relationship could start on a video conference, as opposed to, I'll wait until you come into the market and we meet face-to-face in my office here, whether it's in Middle East, Mexico, Chile, China, wherever. That relationship can start with a video conference, and same with some product training. Trust is the number one element in any type of business relationship. And before it was, I was told by many clients, okay, when you come here, we'll sit down and we'll talk about business. That's initial sit down, and quite frankly, the gestation for the first 6 or 12 months is now being done video-wise. So when you do travel in country, you have a very effective, much more effective, and it really advances the relationship because there's been all this buildup of that interaction virtually over a video conference. And I think that's the biggest, not just difference, but it's an added tool that any exporter and importer can use, because you're getting to know who your counterpart is a lot sooner than that first initial face-to-face meeting.
So in some ways, it sounds like it's actually been a positive.
It's a positive. It's definitely a positive. I think the other, we're looking at various relationship building where the acceptance on the customer side in that export is that we can start this with a video, where again, before it was, okay, I'll just wait until you come here, or I'll meet you at a trade show and we'll sit down in your booth to actually talk about business. I think the second element is that some of these companies that had showrooms have actually converted them into what I would call TV studios. So they've invested in high quality cameras, mic systems, sound systems, lighting systems, where you can actually have an interactive training, whether it's on the product or some type of equipment or system live, as opposed to just a pre-taped video. And I'm seeing, I think the Europeans are way ahead of the United States on this, where I've seen our US competitors actually have what I would call a TV studio and actually had interaction, and it's very effective where they have the camera, they zoom in, you want to say, hey, I have quality product, they zoom in on that part of that piece of equipment, they talk about automation, this is how it works, they have that high quality camera in the factory, very effective without that face-to-face in-country demonstrations that tends to be very expensive.
Interesting. So like many things redefined through the pandemic, but again, a lot of positives. How are you seeing, some of these customers and people entering the markets dealing with supply chain issues, which is so near and dear to my heart, and some of the breakdowns? How is that affecting your startups and dealing with that?
Well, the supply chain challenges are universal around the world, and especially heavily in North America here. And Sandy, you're in the thick of it every single day of your business. But I see a couple trends developing here, and it's probably an acceleration of the onshoring, reshoring, whatever you want to talk about that shoring, whereas people are moving their production closer to where the customer base is. And we're in the process of working with 2 US importers to actually set up their operations in Mexico. We have identified their Mexican partners, and both of them actually are seriously thinking of making an equity or an acquisition on this. And so instead of working with a contract manufacturer in Asia and all the supply chain issues of shipping product from Asia into the United States, and especially here in the Middle East, Midwest, what they're looking at is a source that is much closer, doesn't need ocean transportation, and the actual takes advantage of the USMCA, whereas you have the Section 301 tariffs. The second benefit, which is almost as important, is the development of new product and new innovation and prototyping and interacting with the R&D staff is you're on the same time zone. And so instead of being 14, 13 hours difference and having your engineering staff work from 7 p.m. till midnight, you're on the same time zone, and it's very effective as opposed to switching documents and drawings and CAD drawings back and forth over a 14-hour time difference. So we're seeing these clients of ours actually make substantial investments in their Mexican counterparts.
Wow. So Ken, we can't have an interview and not talk about inflation. So let's talk about inflation at least a little bit. We've had about 40-year records in the inflation rate. Obviously interest rates have been rising and will continue to rising for at least the next few quarters. Prices are remaining persistently on the up. And then of course, as a consequence of the interest rate rises, the dollar has become extremely strong. So how are your clients managing these kinds of challenges? And what about their foreign customers? Yeah,
well, you hit 2 of the biggest challenges I think are in any business today, right? The cost of the inputs, I should say, the cost of raw materials, labor, the supply of both, as well as fuel and petrol costs and energy costs. And then the second one is you hit that exactly on head, is that the valuation of most currencies against the US dollar. The US dollar has appreciated. So you have this double whammy. You add in the supply chain delays, whether ocean freight or air freight or containers are in the wrong spot. So you got this triple whammy from a US exporter's point of view.
Yeah.
Okay. And you're right. Everybody's trying to manage those particular challenges. I think on the other side, what we're seeing is that inflation is a universal global issue. Every market around the world is experiencing inflation, whether it's in fuel prices, food prices, manufacturing goods, transportation. Everyone is experiencing inflation. So there's a natural acceptance that prices will be going up. So what we're seeing is our clients, customers, maybe 2 years ago, we would say the prices we're going to increase it by 5%, and there would be an immediate negative reaction, right?
Yeah.
Now we're saying, hey, prices are going to go up 7%, and that foreign customer is going to say, wow, that's not bad, right?
But what about the dollar cost?
Right. Now, local, they will say, okay,
Yeah.
I understand prices are going up. I understand the dollar is very strong. Okay. The questions that we're getting asked today is, when is the price increase going to be effective? And when is my last purchase at the old prices?
Right.
Okay. When's my last buy? Which actually is increasing the supply chain challenges, because we're moving orders inward, right? Sooner than you would normally have in a normal forecasted stable environment here. So
that was a takeaway from the COVID year, 2 years of COVID as well, right? That if you don't order it by June, it won't be here in December.
Well, exactly. So there is an exception that prices are going up, and there's an acceptance that prices are going up, and an exception that it's going to be longer lead times. And we're seeing this across the board, whether you're in Latin America, Middle East, and in Asia or Japan, of saying, okay, we have one client that has a subsidiary company in Japan. We're used to 4-week lead times. That's up to 10 weeks or 12 weeks.
Right.
They're actually placing orders now for delivery in November.
Yeah.
Right. And so the negative to all that is the investment in inventory, right?
Yep.
There's an investment in inventory, and you're right, that with interest rates going up, the cost of capital has increased as well. If there is any, how do I say, I'm not going to say a benefit here, but if there's anything here, it's universal.
Yeah.
Right. Everybody is struggling with this, and it's not one market over the market. And so let's say the US is not at a disadvantage competitively versus the European markets or European competitors. Everyone is face these particular challenges.
Terrific. Ken, you always great insight, and you're involved in so many different markets, geographically as well as industry wide, and so, and I would agree, a lot of commonality there, which makes it a little bit easier if or to explain to each other, right, and to work through together.
Right.
And if nothing else, as I always say, misery likes company. So but great to have you on the show today. And hopefully you'll come back and tell us as the markets are developing what you're seeing.
Absolutely, yeah. Be happy to speak to you in the future, and if there's anything that we can participate on the international front, please send it our way.
Terrific.
Well, thank you, Ken. This has been Talking Trade with Ken Wasylik, and thanks for joining us. We'll see you in the next episode.